Hi everyone, good morning. Welcome to session Selenium session day 7. And today I will be telling you some advanced thing from the TestNG. So TestNG is a testing framework. Okay, uh, it's not automation framework. Let's talk about this. What is TestNG? So by TestNG is called as automation framework, where it gives an infrastructure for creating a test cases, managing your test cases, executing test cases, and that way. It also creates the report for your test cases, how many pass, how many fail. So that is the reason TestNG is called as a testing framework. Whereas automation framework, it means the project that we create in a Eclipse. I have a separate dedicated session on the automation framework development with the data-driven framework development with the help of page object model and data-driven testing that I will share you separately. Oops, my bad. That I will share you separately. So I will be only covering those part uh, which is not there. So one is like grouping test cases, executing some specific groups, enabling test cases, disabling test cases we already learn, adding dependencies, and setting priority to your test cases. So these are a few things. And last is test ng suite creation and execution. So, automation framework, data driven, keyword driven, hybrid framework, Maven, and its introduction with demo. So, this all things are covered into that framework video. Even this one is also covered. So, I will mark that as pink. So, let's talk about the remaining topics. So, okay, let's go to Eclipse. So last in the last session we learned about some user action simulations, and let's learn TestNG in detail. So file, new, Java project. Okay, this time I will create a Maven project, so at least you will get some idea as well. Okay, so I'm trying to cover at least some basic part of Maven, so it will be helpful. So guys, so far we were creating a Java project, right? But this time I will create file, new, I will say other, and then you can see a Maven project option is there under Maven. So by creating a Maven project, I get so many advantages. Okay. Now, what is Maven? Maven, it is a project management tool from the Apache community. It is specially for Java, and when I say it's a project management tool, that means what Maven does is it helps me to organize my project, restructure, or keep a fixed structure of a project. Now for example, I'm just creating a Maven project. Okay, you need to check this checkbox. Do not forget to check this checkbox. Create a simple project and just say next. Give com dot vikas dot learning. Give some group id. It is similar like a package name, something like that, and artifact id is like a project name. So test ng and maven examples. Okay, so this is my project name, that is you can call as artifact id. So every Maven project has three things. First is group id, second is artifact id, and third is the version. Okay, all right. So you can see that project is getting created. There is some progress bar here, so let's wait until that progress bar finishes. All right, it is done. Expand that project and see there is a predefined default file structure. Let me close the other projects in which I'm not interested. So right click, close unrelated project. Okay, fine. uh, so here As I said, so Maven is a project management tool and it gives a predefined structure. So src main java, src main resource, this is something which is common. Actually there are main two folder. If you expand src you will say main and test. So src main java, this package should be containing this package should be containing the source files of your main application. When I say main application, from developer perspective they will write their own source code, and in src test java they will write unit test cases. Okay, and in main java they will write main application source code. Okay, same goes with main resource. Main resource will have the resource files. It might be xml, excel, csv, or config file, which is related with the source code. Main source code, main application source code I'm talking about. And src test java, src test resource, this is related with my testing stuff. So all the test scripts will go here, the files, test data file will go here, the test configuration will be going here. System GRE library, I'm seeing it is 1.5. I already told you how to change that. You need to go to build path and change it. So we'll do that. And lastly, the very important stuff is pom.xml. So pom.xml stands for uh, project object model. Okay, guys, there are two terminologies: page object model and project object model. Do not get confused between page object model and project object model. So when something is related with a Maven, that means it is project object model, and when something is related with the pages, the web elements, then it is page object model. Okay, so page object model is covered in separate topic, in separate video. All right, I will just clear this stuff. Fine. As I said, we need to change that JDK from 1.5 to 1.8. So let's go to properties, Java build path. You can see 1.5 is there by default. Say add it. And then we need to select Java SE 1.8. Say finish, apply, apply. Okay, it is done. So this is the Maven project. There are so many advantages of having a Maven project. For example, I wanted to run my test cases, or I wanted to compile and run my test cases without Eclipse. So I can do that without Eclipse as well. So you just need to download Maven on your machine. So I will just tell you how can you do that. So if you want to download Maven, just click on Maven here, maven.apache.py. Sorry, maven.apache. Now this version is 3.5.0, and then you need to click on binary zip archive. This is for Windows. If you are working on Linux or Mac, you can go with always tar with tar.gz, but zip also works for Linux and Mac because Java is again a platform independent, and this Maven, these files are also platform independent. So every package containing both files for Windows as well as for Linux. So it is fine to go with any file, just download and extract it. So after extracting, I'm not sure where I kept that, so let me check. I generally keep it in C drive, but okay, I don't remember where I kept that. But I must have configured my Java build path also, so mvn command must be working. Mvn. Okay, see, mvn command is working. It is giving me build failure, but still it is working. If you want to find out from where this mvn command is coming, you can just say which mvn. Oh, sorry, where mvn. So it will tell you that mvn is coming from C drive Apache Maven. Okay, it is already there. I'm using a little bit older version of Apache. So what you have to do is you just have to extract that zip file, and like we set Java home, right? The same way you have to set maven underscore home, that I will show you in environment variable. Give me a second. Properties, advanced system setting, environment variable, and there you must be seeing maven home underscore home. So this is the way we set maven home path. Okay, once it is done, you need to go to path also, and then uh, add maven homes this path. You can see that, right? Oops, my bad. Android home build path. Okay, here it is. So this is the path. C:/Apache Maven 3.22 slash bin. So you have to add a path, full path with bin as well, and no slash at the end. Okay. All right. Okay, so let's continue. Once this is done, your Maven command should get started. You might need to restart your command prompt. So mvn command should work. So by this mvn command, you should be able to execute your Maven projects also. So I will come to this part later. It is not really mandatory to have this setup right now. Eclipse will do a job for you. So let's go to Eclipse. In SRC test Java, I will write some test cases. So I'm writing a class. Let's say my test case is, let's say, Facebook, login test. I won't be creating some real code today. It will be just a sample test cases. Add the test. Okay. Can you see that at the test is not coming? Can anyone tell me why at the test is not coming in the drop down option? Sorry. So yeah, there are many answers from Prashant, from uh, Akhilesh, Vicky, Suyog. So yes, the answer is pointing to the right issue. The jar library we haven't added. We haven't added Selenium jar. We haven't added TestNG library to my project. Okay, so as this is going to be a Maven project, we do not add libraries like this. Guys, always remember, if it is a Maven project, do not use this option, add jar and add external jar. This is not the way how Maven works. If you are doing this, that means you are doing so wrong. This is not the way you should be using Maven project. So if you wanted to add some library or jar or something like that, you should be using pom.xml. There is a special file, pom.xml. Okay, so let's go to pom.xml. Okay, pom.xml will have some this kind of a default UI. To the right corner, you can see at the end you will see pom.xml, and there it is basically an XML file. And let's say I wanted to add a reference to my TestNG. So just Google it. Doesn't matter which library, which dependency you are adding. Just Google TestNG Maven, TestNG Maven. Okay, you will get almost most of the time first link only. So can you see that dependency tag? So specify your pom.xml. What it is saying? It is saying that add a dependency tag. this dependency tag goes under dependencies. So I added the dependencies tag, okay, and then adding TestNG tag. Optionally you can remove that test. And guys, you know what, 6.8 is the older version. I will use 6.9.10. that is the latest, not exactly a latest version, but it is better than 6.8. So I just added dependency. Now it is time to say Control S. As soon as you hit Control S, you will see a progress bar below, and that will, what this progress, what Eclipse will do. Eclipse will first check whether that jar file is present on your local system, on your local machine. If it is not present, then it will go to internet and will download that testng.jar file, and it will add your reference to project. So if you see Maven dependencies there, you see three jar files are added. One is testng-6.9.10, but you know what, testng itself is depend on other two jar files, that is jcommander and bsh. So these jar files will also get downloaded in a recursively. If bsh will also depend on some other jar, that will also get downloaded. All right, so this is about how to add a reference to the testng in Maven project. Now let's add a reference to the Selenium into a Maven project, okay, because we are not adding reference to that jar file. Okay, we do not use direct jar file in a Maven. I am again repeating the same thing. So Maven Selenium, just Google Maven Selenium. You will see the almost most of the time you will see the first link only. So Maven information, and there you have to find out the dependency tag. Can you see a dependency tag? It is present on the Selenium's official website. So just copy that dependency tag, go to Eclipse and paste it here. All right, and then I will say Control S. As soon as I hit Control S, Eclipse will check whether I have Selenium Java already downloaded, whether the version is 3.4. If it is not, then it will go to internet and it will download the jar file. It will take some time, maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, depending on your internet speed as well. So as you can see, it doesn't take much time because I already have Selenium 3.4 in my local computer, previously downloaded by Maven. So all the jar files are downloaded into your machine. If it is a Windows machine, you can see that you just have to go to this folder. I will just show you where it is downloading. Okay, so go to C drive, users, your username, that is my Vikas, and then can you see the .m2 folder here? This is called as Maven repository, M2 repository. There is a repository folder and many folders you will see because the jar files are arranged with the package names. So if I come back, what is the group ID for TestNG? It is org.testng. So let's find out org folder first. Org here, then TestNG. Yes, can you see that TestNG? And then again now artifact ID folder. Artifact ID is TestNG, and then you will see a version number folder. So TestNG is the artifact, and how many versions I have? I have 6.9.8, I have 6.9.10, I have 5.7 version of TestNG also downloaded. So 6.9.10 is what I am using. Double click, and there you will see a jar file. This is a source code, and this is actually jar file 6.9.10. okay, so this is how the jar files are arranged. If the version that I have specified in pom.xml is not present, then Maven will automatically download that jar file into your repository. So the same case for Selenium Java. What is the artifact group ID? org selenium hq.selenium. So let's go to that path. Org selenium hq, then selenium, and then the different artifact ID. So my artifact ID is, as you can see, it is Selenium Java. Let's try to find out where is Selenium Java. You see that Selenium Java? Come here, and these are the different versions that I have in my Maven repository. So this is 2.53.0, 2.53.1, 3.0.1, 3.1.0, and 3.4.0, which is the latest version of Selenium. So, and this will happen with others also, because Selenium Java has a dependency to other Selenium libraries. So, for example, Selenium parent. So, just go to Selenium parent, then you will see the older files. Selenium Safari 3.4.0 is there. Selenium API 3.4.0. Also, some extra versions are there. All right. So, I'm going to close this. Okay, go to your eclipse. There you see so many jar files are added, because I told you, right, if I'm adding a dependency to Selenium, it will also add other jar files which are required by Selenium, so it will be added recursively. Okay, if you want more information about what are the dependencies Selenium has, so what you can do is you can open Maven Central repository, mvn Maven Central. Just say Maven Central. You will see this Maven Central repository. And what is my artifact ID? Artifact ID is selenium-java. Copy that and search here. Put that artifact ID here and search. So you will see org selenium java. Latest version is 3.4.0. All the versions are there. Are total 81 versions available. Last updated was on 21st April 2017. Okay, so let's open. Click on that artifact ID. Again, click on. Okay, click on that version. Sorry, click on that 3.4.0, and there you will see a POM file, another POM file which has dependencies. That means this Selenium Java will is dependent on Selenium API. It is dependent on Selenium Chrome driver. It is dependent on Selenium Edge driver, and with their specific versions also. So Selenium Remote driver with 3.4.0, Selenium support, Apache common libraries for 3.5, common codec, common IO, common logging, and some other. Let's say Google Gava. This is for Google IO, Google input output. Hamcrest, I'm not sure why it is there. So there are some other dependencies. Maybe the version number may not be the same. For example, Jetty server with this version number, that way. Okay, let's come back to the project. Now I have added that jar files, okay, by adding dependency. Only thing is you have to copy paste this dependency. You don't have to do anything. Okay, now see, for example, my automation project, my framework, see, this is the framework you created. My framework is having 1 MB source code. Okay, a source code of 1 MB, that all the Java files 1 MB. But the problem is dependencies will be around maybe 30 MB, because Selenium jar file, it is almost 20 MB, and that way. So if you add so many libraries, then dependencies will go around like 20 MB, minimum 20 MB to maximum might be 100 MB or 200 MB also. So instead of managing all that jar file locally, if you create a Maven project, you don't have to worry about how you are managing that jar files. Where are you putting this jar file? I just have to share this source code, which is approximately 1 MB, on any machine globally, and on whichever machine I am importing this project. Okay, Maven project is imported like this: file, import. You need to select Maven. For general normal project, we select existing project into workspace, but for Maven project, we set existing Maven project, and then you have to specify the path to the folder which is containing pom.xml. Okay, but I already imported this project. It says that TestNG and Maven project is already imported into workspace, but otherwise you can just tick here and just say finish. Okay, so it will start downloading the jar file, and this happens only for first time. It won't be happening for every time. Okay guys, any questions so far? I didn't get your question, Vishal. Can you please tell me link bet Eclipse? Acha, link between Eclipse, Apache, and Maven. Okay, Apache is the company. Okay, Apache is a company, and they have so many tools. One is Apache Tomcat. Other is Apache Server. Apache Maven is also coming from Apache. Maven is for project management. There are so many Apache Zipline, Apache JMeter. If you have heard about JMeter word for performance testing tool, so Apache is an open source community. They developed some very nice tools. Even Apache PUI, which is used to read and write Excel files, that library is also coming from Apache. Eclipse is the IDE, which is going to help you to code. Eclipse is IDE. TestNG is a testing library, and we integrate TestNG and Maven with the Eclipse. So I think in the first or second session I have showed you how to install TestNG TestNG plugin in your Eclipse, and Maven, it is built in with Eclipse from Eclipse Mars onwards. Maven, you don't have to install some external plugin for Maven. If you go file, new, other, you will by default see Maven if you are using Eclipse Mars or Eclipse Neon onwards. So you don't have to install anything for Maven. Maven is a project management tool that helps you to manage your project. So it gives you some specific folder locations where you can actually, put your, which class should go where, that way. And it also has some specific folder for resources. So if you want to add some jar file or something, or maybe some XML file, you can put into resources. Maven, if you are using a Maven, you don't have to deal with the manually jar files. It will automatically downloaded and saved on your computer and will be added into your project automatically. So this is the Maven in short. Okay, this is in very very short. Maven will also help you to run your project without Eclipse. So compiling test cases, running test cases. So this can also help. That is Maven in short. But Maven actually do so many things more. Can we add a browser path in pom.xml? You mean the driver path, right? System.set property and the driver path. Actually, yes, we can do that. Maven gives so many options, but using a property file properties tag, you can do that. You can actually have this thing. Okay, any other question? But I won't be going very much detail in a Maven because covering a Maven itself, takes so many hours. I will be just telling you how to get started with a Maven at least. I'm just trying to remove that fear of, Maven word, and you people should be knowing the basics of Maven at least, practically, not theoretically. Any other question, guys? Vicky asked a question: do we need to add external jar file? I think I have answered your query, Vicky, right? You don't need to add any external jar file or anything. Maven will do that job for you. TestNG we have added. Okay. All right. I hope I answer your questions, Vishal, Prashant, Akhil. All right. Let's come back here. Now, Facebook login page, login test I created. I have added TestNG library. So by saying control space, I should be able to see that org.testng.annotations package. So let's wait. Okay, it is coming now. Org testng.annotations, and then write test case 1. Guys, I won't be writing any browser automation code because we are focusing on learning TestNG in detail. So the below here you can write actually any Selenium automation script, driver equal to new Firefox driver or anything, and just go and click and do some other mouse operations, and that you can do it. But I will only print system.println in test case 1. Okay, let's add some more test cases. Let's say I have total 4 test cases, 2, 3, 4. Change this numbering as well. Okay, so I have total 4 test cases. If you want to run, you can just simply right click run as TestNG test. So it will run all the 4 test cases because I didn't select any one specific test case. So all test cases ran. Okay, it was quite fast because there is no code in the test case. It is just a printing. So you can see that in test case 1, 2, 3, 4. This test cases got called in a sequence because I told you by default the test cases will be called in alphabetical order. Okay, let's say there is a test case. Let's say test 0 case 4. Okay, so this is a test 0. That means alphabetically it will come first. So let's say the calling sequence. Oh, sorry, my bad. I just selected that one test case and right click and run as. So by this way, only one test case will execute. So right click anywhere else. Okay, let's see the sequence. Test case number 4 got called first because it was having a name as test 0 case 4. Okay, so this is also one way you can actually manage the test case ordering. This is one. There are some other ways as well. Okay, but before that, let's add some configuration annotation. So let's learn some configuration annotation. We already learned before method, public void, the function name I will give as before method, and so in before method. The same way I will add after method. This has to be after method. So before method and after method will be called for every test method. Okay, so let me show you. Right click run as TestNG. So you can see that in before method, then test case 1, then after method. In before method, test case 2, after method. In before method, test case 3, after method. So for every test method, before method and after method will be called. So in the last previous sessions, we learned, how can we launch our browser and close browser in using before method and after method. Next configuration annotation from TestNG is after class, oh sorry, before class, sorry, my bad. Make sure guys you're importing it from where. So if you're importing it from JUnit, it may not work properly. Okay, we are using TestNG, we are learning TestNG, so import everything from TestNG. Public void, sorry, before class SYSO before class. Same way I will have after class. So guys, as the name suggests, before class and after class, this method will be running before all the test cases get executed here. Okay, and this method will only run once for that one class. Okay, so before class, after class I have added. So what will happen is, you know, the very first thing, before class, in the beginning before class will be called, then before method will be called, then test1 will be called. Okay, then after method, then before method, test 2 after method, before method test 3 after method, before method after sorry, test 4 after method, and then at the end it will call after class, because this is the ending of the class. All test cases got executed from the same class. So let me run and show you the output. So can you see that in before class is there, and in the end in after method. Why after method? I think I did a mistake. After class, where is after class? Why after class is not printed? I think it is coming from JUnit. Yeah, it is coming. See, this is the problem. If you are importing something by mistake in the JUnit, it may not get called and you will not figure out what is exactly wrong. So see, after class was getting imported from a JUnit, so I will just delete that and import from TestNG. Now it will work. Okay. Like the same way we have after class, we can also add after, before and after test. Before @ before test, it should be coming from TestNG public void before test. Let's say you wanted to execute some code before all the test cases, you can actually do that. So before test, before after test, all right. So my bad, this is annotation. Now right, make sure you have imported it from TestNG. So now this calling sequence will be something like this. I will just write a notepad. Okay, first before test will get called, then class will get called before class, then before method will get called. At the end, after actually test case will get called, test case, or you can call as a test method will be called. Then after method, after class, and then after test. Okay guys, why is this difference? You know what is the difference between before class and before test is, your one test may have multiple classes. So something like this, you know, your one test may have multiple classes. So now this test is having two classes included. So that way, that is the reason why we have before test as a separate. Okay, there is one more annotation, that is suit. So before suit, and at the end after suit. Now what is the difference between before suit and test? Basically test, one suit can have multiple tests. So let's say I'm just copying that and pasting it here, and this test is only having one class. So I think this might be clear to you. So this is a suit is having two tests. Okay, this is first test and this is second test, and each test is it may contain multiple classes. So this test is containing one class 1, this is class 2, and this test is only containing one class. This is containing before method, after method with some test methods, and that way. Okay, so this is the high level structure, and this is also a structure of how a suit is created. So I will come to that part. Let me know if you have any questions. All right, so before test I have added, after test I have added. Let's run it and see the calling sequence. See, the calling sequence is in before method, in test case 1, after method, before method. See, this is before test, before class, before method, and then all test cases with after method, then after method, after class, after test. This is the sequence. If you want to see chronological view, you can just say control refresh. You will see test output folder, There you see index.html somewhere. This is a TestNG's report. Right click, open with system editor. System editor means whichever is your default browser. Okay, there you just click on chronological view, and you know it is clear that how you know it was this methods are getting called. So you won't see before suit here, but you can see that before test, before class, before method, and all of this thing. Okay, let's go back, guys. See, now let's talk about you know adding dependency in your test case. You know, I wanted to say that test case 1, where is test case 1? Test case 1 is dependent on test case 2. Okay, so that dependency you can add as depends on method equal to the method name you have to write. So it means that test case 1 cannot be executed unless test case 2 is successfully passed. So guys, you tell me in this test, in this case, which test case will be called first? 1, 2, 3, 4, this will be the sequence, or 2, 1, 3, 4, which will be the sequence? 2, 1, 3, 4. Okay, so let's run it and see. Right click, run as TestNG test. As test case 1 is dependent on test case 2, the firstly test case 2 has to be called. Okay, but it may not see test case 1 is called after test case 2 but also after 3 and 4. Now the reason is, see what I said is test case 2 is dependent on test case 1. That means test case 2 will be executed first, but not necessarily that test case 1 will be immediately executed followed by test case 2. Okay, it test case 1 will be executed sometimes after test case 2, not necessarily, maybe it might be immediately, may not be immediately, but there is no dependency between test case 1 and test case 3. So test case 3 4 may get executed and then test case 1 will get executed. All right, depends on methods. So this is what we use. Let's say if you want to say that test case 4 is dependent on test case 1. Okay, test case 4 is dependent on test case 1. Test case 4 is dependent on test case 1. Okay, so now what will happen is test case 1 should get executed before test case 4 and test case 4 should be the last test case. So let's run it. Okay, let's see outcome. In test case 4 and test case 1 got executed before the test case number 4. Is this is clear, guys? Any questions so far? Let me know if you have any questions, at least yes, no, or something. Yes, Prashant, you have any question? Can you please tell the again test and class? That's the question from Prashant. See, uh, it will be more clear if I create testng.xml, but right now, you know, let it be. It will be more clear if I tell you testng.xml, that means test suite. There is a question from Akhil. What we can put under the test, before test, after test? Akhilesh, that is completely depend on you. What you wanted to do before test, before class, before method. It is absolutely depend on you. Now, for example, you want to launch a browser, one browser, and the same browser has to be used by all the test cases, then you will be putting it maybe before class, and so it will be shareable all the across all the methods within the same class. But if you wanted to share the same browser instance, you will instantiate the browser instance into before test, so it will be accessible in the current test. But if you want to access it into current suite, you will put it into before suit. So it completely depends on you what you wanted to do. Any code you can write it, but to be very frank, we don't use each and every configuration method. We only make use of few. For example, before method is most commonly used, and people also use before test, and sometimes before suit. It depends. We don't use each and every configuration method every time. Okay, now let's move on. uh, I added some dependencies. Now let's see how you can have a dependency on multiple test cases. Let's say you wanted to say that test case number 3 is dependent on multiple test cases. So what you will do is depends on methods. When you wanted to give multiple method name, you just have to say curly braces and write those test method. Now let's say for example I will write test case number 4 in double quote. It is nothing but string array, nothing much. As well as test case number 2. So test case number 3 will be executed after successful execution of test case number 4 and test case number 2. Okay, let's see, right click, run as TestNG test. Alright, so test case 2 called first 1, 4 and then finally test case number 3. Okay, now there might be another scenario. Let's say test case number 3 is dependent on test case number 2, but test case number 2 got failed. So intentionally failing a test case is using this assert. This assert should come from TestNG. Sorry, there is a method fail, and then you can pass some failure message also. Let's say force fail. This is some failure message that I am adding. You can give some more details about it. So test case number 2 is getting fail, and what are the methods which are dependent on test case number 2? So test case number 1, you can see it is dependent on test case 2, as well as test case number 3 is dependent on test case number 2. Okay, and other thing is test case number 4 is also dependent on test case number 1. Test case number 1 which is dependent on test case number 2. That means in short all the test cases are indirectly dependent on test case number 4. Is this is clear? Can you understand this trivial dependency? See, the direct dependency is test case number 1 and test case number 3. This is direct dependency. Whereas test case number 4 is dependent on test case number 1 and test case number 1 is dependent on test case number 2. That means test case number 4 is also dependent on test case number 2. That means all the test cases in my current class are dependent on test case number 2. So what will happen if I fail this test case? Let's say if this test case gets failed, maybe intentionally or maybe some assertion failure. So you will see that one test case got failed, and due to that remaining 3 test cases got skipped. Okay, not as a fail, those are skipped because test case number 2 is failing. That means TestNG will not try to run the dependent test cases also, it will skip the test case. Okay, so if you go here, you will see test case number 2 got skipped, fail. That is the reason these are marked as yellow. This is skipped, this is skipped, and you can see that what was the reason. Okay, reason of failure, reason of skipping also. It will say that dependents not successfully finished method, that way. Guys, is this clear? If a test case is depend on some other test case and that test case is getting failed, then your test case will be getting skipped. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm waiting for questions, guys. Okay, there is a question from Kiran. Then dependent test case also considered as fail? No, dependent test case considered as a skip because it is not executed, right? If the test case is not executed, how can you say it is fail, right? If the test case is not executed, it should not be treated as a fail. It should be treated as a skip only. So by knowing a skip, that means this feature is not tested, this test case is not tested. You know, you can test it manually or you can fix the base test case and do it. Okay. Okay, and you might have understood the complexity. Now let's say, for example, test case number 2 is depends on method. I will say test case number 4, but actually test case number 4 itself is a depend on test case number 2 indirectly, and I am saying test case number 2 is depend on test case number 4. So this is deadlock situation. So if you try to run such a kind of test cases, it will give an exception saying that cyclic dependency. Okay, so test case number 4 is dependent on test case number 2, test case number 2 is dependent on test case number 1. So this is a cycle. Okay, so that is one problem with dependencies. If you have so many dependencies in your test cases, then it becomes very difficult to understand which test case is dependent on what, and is it creating a cyclic dependencies, because we end up with some issues and we don't get to know that why this test case is really getting skipped. Okay, so it is a good practice to avoid test case dependency, guys. Though TestNG is giving you a feature, but it is always good practice to avoid having dependencies. Okay, let's go with another example. We are done with dependencies. If you have any questions, let me know. Let's say you wanted to execute test cases into some specific sequence. Okay, but you do not want to have dependency in between, because dependency will skip the test case dependent test cases if the main test case is getting failed. Okay, so there is another way, @test from TestNG void test1. Okay, just simply writing few sample test cases. All right, what I want is some of these test cases to be run first. There are total 6 test cases. There are total 6 test cases, and what I want is test case number 3 to be executed as the first test case. So you can set a priority. You can set a priority to your test case. Okay, now that priority I will give it's a number. Okay, you can also give some more information to your test case. Let's say description. Okay, I'm adding a description to my test case saying that test XYZ feature, and let's run this test case. Let's see which test case got executed first. 3 2 4 5 6, and then at the end test case number 3 got executed. I will tell you why. The more number of priority, that means the less number of priority, it means it is the highest priority. So priority goes like this. So if I am having priority values are valid from 0 to 9. If I am giving priority 0, that means highest priority. If I am having priority as 9, that means lowest priority. By default, priority to your test case, if you don't assign, then it is 0. Okay, if it is you are not assigning any priority, then it is 0. So what I will do is I will set a priority. So this test equal to set some number. Maybe I will set priority 6, priority 5. This is priority 1. I think this is sufficient. Okay, so let's run it. These test cases have priority 0. That means these 3 test cases will be executed first. Then this is having priority 1, so I'm expecting test 3 to be executed, then test case 2, and then test case 6, test case 1, because it is having the priority higher side, higher value. So that means lower priority. Okay, can you see that 4 5 6 got executed because those are on priority 0. Those are on priority 0, 4 5 6. Then highest priority is the minimum priority value, that is 3, and then test case number 2, and last at the end test case number 1. So this is the way you can manage a priority. The advantage of using a priority is, let's say any one of the test cases is getting failed, so assume that test case number 4 is getting failed. Okay, this test case, failing this test case will not be affecting other test cases to skip. Okay, if you have a dependency, then other test cases will be skipped, those will not be passed or failed, but here it will be, other test cases will not be impacted just because of test case number 4. So if you go to result and see test case number 4 got failed, but still other remaining test cases got executed. That is the advantage. And the disadvantage of using a priority is the priority values are valid from 0 to 9. You cannot exceed that. Let's say if you have you wanted to define more priorities, then you cannot do that. These are the default values. That is the problem with the priority. All right. The one approach is using alphabetical order. If you wanted to execute some test cases into particular sequence. Other approach is you adding dependencies, and other approach is again adding priorities so that it can execute in some specific sequence. And there is a one more approach where you can actually go and go to your test suite and specify preserve order. So this is it. So we learn adding dependency, we learn adding priority, we learn adding description to my test case. We also learn about the configuration methods, configuration annotations. Now grouping a test case is remaining, so let's quickly cover up that. I'm creating a class. Same way, I will just copy paste some test cases from here, not here, I will copy it from priority. Okay, so I have some test cases which are having priority. It doesn't matter what priority I give. Okay, so for every test case you need to assign a group. So the attribute is groups is equal to, let's say I'm assigning specifying g1, or let's say regression. Okay, optionally you can actually, ideally you should be creating a static final. Okay, now assign this group to your test cases. So instead of saying directly a hard-coded regression, you can just specify that constant value, because there is less chances of doing some mistake. So this test case belongs to regression. This test case belongs to regression. My bad. you should copy that full group equal to. And finally, test case number 5 also belongs to regression group. Excuse me. Alright, so I have added a group to some test cases, okay, not all the test cases. Now what I will do is, let's say I wanted to run test cases only from regression group. So you know, by saying run, right click, run as TestNG test, you won't be able to do it. Just go to run configuration. I'm opening run configuration. There, make sure you have selected a correct class. Is it a priority example class? Is it? No, I want to run this grouping test example. So change that class name, go to browse. It will show you list of available classes in your project. So I want to execute this grouping test example, double click. All right, and then I also I'm actually not running a class, you know, I wanted to run all the test cases which are belonging from some specific group. So just click on the groups. It will show you the option, you know, which group is available for this test cases. So just take that. Okay, groups is regression. I will say apply and run. So when I execute that, you can see 531 test case is now executed, okay, based on their priority. And you can also go to the TestNG report, refresh it. All right, and there you can see, just click on this first URL. It is pointing to some XML file. So basically an XML file is created. In case of a TestNG, XML file is a test suite. Okay, I will come to that, how to write an XML file. But there you see a tag groups, run, include, name equal to regression. That means it will be including all the test cases from the regression group. Okay, fine. I will just go back to the Eclipse. Now, a one test case may belong to multiple groups as well. So for that, again give a curly brace. I will say insert. Oh my bad. Comma. Paste that other group name and curly bracket complete. Bracket complete. So this way you can specify this test case is belonging to smoke as well as regression test group. Okay, so just you know, if I wanted to run only smoke test cases, I can just right click, run as, run configuration. There I will write actual group name. Why is it not showing? Apply. Let's go here and select from checkbox, say run. So I'm expecting only test 1 should be executed because this is the only test case which is belonging to group smoke. So you can see that only test case 1 is executed. All right, let's add this test case under smoke group. Oops, my bad. It is not in double quote, it is a constant, right? So right click, run as, again run configuration. There you can specify a group and say run. All right, optionally you can select both the groups also. Let's say I wanted to run test cases from both the group. That means all the test cases from smoke as well as all the test cases from regression. So in short, it is going to execute all test cases which are having group except test case number 4, because it is not having any group. This will not be executed because I am not saying because this is not belonging to any group, so it will be excluded by default. Alright, this is it about grouping. You can also have a dependency on a grouping. For example, you wanted to run this test case, okay, depends on group, and you need to specify which group. Let's say I want to specify group smoke. So this test case will only be executed after running all the test cases from smoke. Okay, so if all the test cases from smoke are getting passed, then only this test case will be executed, else test 6 will be skipped. I hope you understand this depends on group concept also. I'm not going to into very detail because one important topic is pending from TestNG, that is adding sorry creating a test suite. Okay, data driven annotation is also important, but I have covered that in a separate session. So let's create a TestNG suite. So TestNG suite is, as we know, right, what is suite? Suite is a group of test cases for execution. So in case of a TestNG suite is a XML file. Okay, and it has some structure I showed you right here. So this was some structure for TestNG suite. So let's create our own TestNG suite, but I always take reference from TestNG website. So let's go to TestNG's official website and then documentation. I'm just copying that sample XML code, nothing much. So there is already a sample XML code. So I'm just going to copy this some piece of a code. Let's create a suite. Right click, new. We actually create a file with the extension XML. So that XML file is actually our test suite. So file name is, let's say, regression test production. Okay, so this is my suite.xml is the extension. I will say finish. Can you see that regression test production.xml is created? This is a UI thing. Okay, the document is empty. Right click and blah 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 blah. I don't recommend to go here. Instead, go click on that source. Okay, and then you can edit. Okay, so basic structure of any TestNG suite is this. So there will be this is a document line. Okay guys, it will tell you the data definition. It will tell you how that what can be the different tag. It is like a schema file. Okay, it is schema file for your TestNG test that will define the structure of your TestNG. It is standard, pretty much standard. So TestNG suite will have first tag as a suite. Inside that tag, there will be a test tag. Let's say test login, something like that. And this is suite name is regression. All right. So suite name equal to regression, test name equal to test login. And inside this test, what you wanted to execute. Let's say I wanted to run the test cases from some package. I can specify packages. Okay, and then include that package name. Let's say my package name is .com.vikas.test and include all the classes from that package. You can see something like this dot star. So it will run all the classes which are present inside that package. Okay, but that is one option. I will just comment it out. I won't be using that. Even I generally don't use this option, because specifying package, let's say if I have 1000 test cases and running all 1000 test cases uh, is not the way, right? I mean, we expect. All right, so in test you can add classes. Okay, see, I'm getting these options saying control space because I have added this one line. This schema is added at the as the first line of my suite. So in classes, you can actually specify a class tag. There you have to specify which class you wanted to execute. So in my case, I wanted to execute, let's say, grouping test example. Okay, this is the class I want to execute. So I just wrote the class name and go to that XML file. Go to that specific XML file. Right click, run as. What option you see here? This is run as TestNG suite. It is not run as TestNG test. Okay, it is a suite. So I'm just running that. And can you see that all the test cases got executed from 4, 5, 3, 2, 1, 6, depending on their priority as well as dependency. Okay, all the test cases got executed because I have specified dependencies and priorities there. If you want to preserve a order, there is attribute to this tag test name equal to preserve order. Okay, not two classes. All right, but to be very frank, this order is not going to help me because I already specified that priority as well as dependency. So even though if I have preserve order true here, it will not affect. See, 453 2 1 6, it is the still the same order though I have specified preserve order. Okay, the reason, as I said, I have specified that priorities and order inside my class, so that gets more precedence over this preserve order. And again, I have not specified that in which order this method should be executed, right? So this is one approach. I will just remove that preserve order stuff. Okay. So this is the way I included that one class. Let's say I want to include that Facebook login test also. Class name is Facebook login test. Now let's run it. You cannot right click and say just run as TestNG suite. There is no option. You have to right click on that XML file. Okay, there is something wrong. There is a cyclic dependency. I actually forgot to remove that cyclic dependency. Test case number 4 was test case number 1. Let's remove that cyclic dependency. And now try to run that XML. XML is actually we call as a test suite. So this is a production regression test production suite, something like that. So total how many test cases executed? You can see it here. 2 classes executed, and there are 2 failure. Test case 2 is failed, test case 4 is failed, and test case 1 and 3 got skipped because those were dependent on test case number 2. So this is the way you can include actually multiple class, and that before class takes effects in this case. If you have before class written inside this class as well as this class, that will be called before all the test method from that class. So there will be two before class will be called if it is defined in a separate classes. All right, so let's say I wanted to have another test, not into the same test. You can create a test name equal to, let's say, test priority, something like that. Inside this test, again you can specify classes and specify which class you want to run. So I want to run, just copy that class name, go to XML, that suite file, paste that class name. Okay, so this way I created two suites, two tests in my one suite. Sorry, my bad. This is out, right? Remove that out. By mistake I created that. Okay, now this is my test suite, and to run, okay, see the total test cases ran are 16, failure are 3, skip test cases got 2. If you expand it, you will see that test login was the first test, other test is test priority. Test login executed 2 classes, first class is grouping example, other class is Facebook login test, and the test priority class executed test priority examples class. So this is another test. So this is my suite name is regression, as you can see. This is suite is having test. Each test may contain classes, multiple classes, and that classes will execute the test method. All right. Okay. Now what I will do is, let's say, right now I'm specifying the class name. So by default, it is including all the test methods from that class. Okay. Let's take example. This is the test case test 5, which you do not want to include. So the one option is you can say enabled equal to false. By that way, you will permanently disable this test case until you are not executing this. You are not changing that enabled equal to true or removing that enabled. But let's say you may want to run this test case into some separate suite, into some other XML file. So in that case, you will not do this. Okay, I will go to that XML file. And which is this class that was a priority example. So inside that class I will add one more tag, methods, and there you get two options. Methods, you can actually include and exclude. Okay, let's say I want to exclude a method. Right now I'm excluding a method, and that method name is, let's find out what is the method name. That method name is test5. Okay, so I'm just writing test5, exclude test5 from test priority example. So it was executing C. Test priority was having 4, 5, 6, 3, 2, 1. If I run that XML, then you won't be able to see test case number 5 because I'm excluding that test method. So let's go here, check the priority. See, 4 and directly 6 is there. There is no test 5 because I have said that exclude. Okay, now this is about exclusion. You wanted to remove some method, you don't want to execute some specific method from that class. So I specified exclusion. So by default, it will try to execute the remaining test cases. All the remaining test cases will be executed by default. But let's say you only want to execute some specific test case, not all the test cases. Let's say I wanted to run this test case number 4. Okay, Facebook login test is there, and I wanted to run test case number 4. So I will just copy that. Go to find that class where you have written. Okay, where is Facebook? Okay, here is the Facebook. Go inside that class, then write methods. Again, you will get an option whether to write include, exclude. This time I will be including. Include test case 4. Okay, so let's go and see. This should be only executing that one specific test, and remaining test cases should not be there in your suite because I explicitly marked as include and exclude. So let's go to the Facebook login test, and you can see only one test case is there. Okay, because I said only include this one test. Fine. So either you can actually use include or exclude if it is working with the method. So if you say include, it will only run that included test cases, and it will skip the remaining test cases. And that way, the other thing is include and excluding a group, that I won't be showing you an example, but if you wanted to include or exclude a group, we just write this. Okay, let's go here. I will just double click, and under groups, okay, under suite I'm saying groups, then run, and which group I want to run. So let's say include or exclude, you can specify. I'm saying include smoke, but here you can use include and exclude both together. Okay, include and exclude both together. So that is my suit. I specified to include smoke test cases and not to include regression test cases. Okay, so let's say there is a test case which is common. I think there was a test case which is a common. Yeah, So see, I said include smoke, not regression. So what it will do is it will include this test case, but it will not include this test case because it is also in smoke, but it is also in regression. It is in this test case is present in both the group. And I said exclude test cases from regression. That is the reason this test 1 will not be executed. Okay, because it is like a minus b. I am saying execute test cases a and only a, which are not there in b also, that way, so let's run this and see. Right click, run as TestNG test. Only how many test cases executed? Only test case number 2 and test case number 4 get executed. So test case 1 was not executed because test case 1 is a part of regression also, and I specified only run smoke test case, not which is not there in a regression. But if you change this, okay, I will just comment it. This line is commented now. I'm saying include all smoke test cases. All smoke test cases. Doesn't matter if the same test case is present in some other groups as well. I'm saying include all smoke test cases. So it will go and run all the test cases which are having smoke in a group. So 1, 2, and 3. So 3 test cases will get executed. Right click, run as TestNG test. And we are done. That's all for today. I hope uh, you understood TestNG in a detail level. Also about the grouping test cases, dependencies. We also learn about creating test suite with some different options. Like uh, groups, run, the test classes, including methods, excluding methods, and that way. I hope this was helpful session. Thank you very much. We can have a question and answer session after this. So just ping me your question if you have anything on Skype. Thank you for attending. Thank you very much. Have a great day.